Hi everyone, regular viewers will be aware that I've been trying to enhance this channel a bit and I have some big ambitions for the future. And that includes speaking to and interviewing some of the finest voices in philosophy, politics, spirituality, the Western mythos, health and well-being, and so on. That's all part of a mission to create a resource for modern men to go to where they can find a sense of sanity and meaning in the chaos of the modern world. That is all down on my Substack, and I've spoken to Scott Mannion recently. For those who don't know, he is an ex-film director, sort of philosopher of one time, turned to Christian mystic recently. And he's a very deep guy. Many of you may well know him. Very bright man. And he's working very hard at the moment to reawaken that Christian mythos, specifically in the form of Christian mysticism and traditionalism. Now, I had a fascinating chat with him. Some of it's too spicy for YouTube. So as I say, you can see the whole thing for free down in my Substack in the description. But we spoke about all sorts of things, from the darkness of Hollywood to combating the liberal regime and the scars of battle, how we deal with those things so we don't get taken over by it from the inside, the Western mythos and modernity, the ethnos and the spirit. That's a very important one. I don't think many people are speaking about that, but I think that's vital for the future to understand that. Many trapdoors in that one. In fact, the clip I'm about to play you speaks on that issue too, as well as issues such as Christianity, paganism, and so on, and why that's popular in this day and age. And finally, we also speak about the practical steps that many men can take if they're interested in learning more and enhancing their own lives. So as I say, I'm going to play you a clip from that interview. You can view the whole thing down in the description in the Substack. It's for free, and do sign up to the Substack while you're there as well. It is this death of the small s self and the moving into the true self, which is the light of God in religious language. But again, it speaks to another point there. Well, there's many points I want to touch on, but there was one really important thing you said right at the beginning, which I think is so important in this day and age. And you're maybe one of the best positioned people to speak on this, which is across the West, there is this ethnic awakening going on. And I think that's a good thing in principle, because speaking as an English person who grew up in Leicester, I don't know if you've heard of Leicester, but it's a very multicultural city. I was told by my parents, my school, never have an ethnic identity. That's fine. That's fine. You know, I didn't base myself upon it. I didn't think it was relevant. In fact, I remember growing up and, you know, the guys who had Indian parents or Jamaican parents or Irish parents, they were always seen as more cool. Like they had something. You know, I didn't have anything. I was white bread, boring, plain, nothing. And then, of course, you go through the university system and that's just reaffirmed even more. The only thing is just they add on the guilt, you know, you should be ashamed, British Empire, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't until, you know, as I was speaking to earlier, I was going through some of these changes, I started to realize, look, there's more to the Western tradition than I've been told. There is a depth in there somewhere. There's lots of corruption, yes. There's lots of sin, yes. But there is something real there. And you can see now many people across the West are waking up to that, not in this kind of, you know, as the left would say, genocidal, maniacal way of we just hate other groups, but more of this, we do have a history. We are an ethnicity too, and that's okay. But you can also see there is this balance going on where some people are moving into it as the fundamental nature of their very identity, you know, whiteness or Englishness or whatever it may well be. Now, they are deeply, deeply important. I'm not trying to poo-poo them. They are incredibly important. But you spoke to something very interesting earlier where you said beyond the ethnic layer. And I think that's very, very important for well, in my view, for the future of the West, because I'm not denying that there can be an ethnic component, but it feels to me if we're to deal with this subject with wisdom, with love, with justice, with compassion, we have to get beyond that layer to make true use of it. I just wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, this is an important subject, and I very much agree with you. Of course, the ethnic layer is important, and even Evola understood that there was a multiple, heredity is one thing, and then when you become completely obsessed with that, it can possess you. Heredity, there, like I mentioned earlier, there's a few great points there that you're talking about. Let's just start with the last one first. If you can't forgive your enemy, they live rent-free in your head. What we're after is a vision of an authentic folk future, let's say, for these people. That's what you want, all right, guys? I'm 100% with you. We're a people, but we need to disclose, and this is part of the reason why I went through this whole process. We need to disclose the futural element of what that people is. What do we have when we look at heredity only? We have what has been of the past and the eternal return of the same, the eternal recurrence, right? We're not just what has been in the past, though. As Ovola understood, we have a metaphysical entity as well. It means that, again, this is what I was talking about earlier, folk angel. When we understand this element, what providence has always been understood in the English tradition. Just look back into it. That's what was driving the English doing all the stuff that they were doing. They're always talking about providence. Newton, all these people. That needs to be discovered. If you put something in the way of what has been, and that's what modernity is, if you put a pure heredity element in, race element in the way, you can't disclose the angel. You have no vision. You're just what has been. And you'll just be the recurrence of old archetypes, of old desires, of old enemies and old wounds, because that's what the collective unconscious is in temporality. There's 3 layers. There's space and time, which we exist in now. There's time on its own, which is the collective unconscious and the will. And then there's the eternal, which is outside that. So there's a few things. We have to not be locked in, having the enemy live rent-free in our heads. How do you do that? There's no way to get rid of them. Say we defeat the regime, right? And we won't without providence. I can tell you that. Say we defeat the regime. They will live on as a demon in you because you've been battling them. Again, you see this in these mimetic battles between figures like Musk and whatever the other rich guy's name is, Bezos, both doing rocketry. But even figures like, say, Carl Benjamin and Jess Phillips, right? They were sort of both living in each other's heads rent-free, aren't they? They're sort of constantly stuck in each other. So you win, right? You win. Yay. They're still there. The wounds are still there, and you can't get out of it because it's a karmic issue. Again, a modern scoffs at this karmic issue, but all it is, think about it like a mist that surrounds you. Again, karma's a bit Eastern. I don't like getting too perennialist in the sense that I think perennialists can help. But of course, there's one incarnated God. But karma is just what destiny is. The Western word for karma is destiny. We understand that karma means what goes around comes around. Destiny is destination based on what has been. You can even look at the old Anglo-Saxon poem, The Wanderer. That's about weird. The old word weird means that. It was a river that's coming towards you that you can't escape. That's sin. Sin is something you've done. You've fought this enemy. You have to clear that. And how do you do that? This is why you forgive, guys. It's not a cucky thing to do. You're cucked by the people that you hate. They're cucking your future. They're stopping you from finding your ideal future that God wants for you and your ethnic people. You have to get them out. Doesn't mean you don't fight them. Doesn't mean you don't patriarchally, whip them out of the temple. Doesn't mean you don't win. It means you don't allow them to live rent-free in your head. How do you do that? Forgiveness.
As you can see, Scott is a very intelligent and deep guy and doing some very, very interesting work that I think is super important at this time. You can see the interview in full down below in the description on the Substack. And in the future, I'm going to do more interviews of this sort. They will be mostly free. However, I do think I'll have some bits which are just for the paid audience on Substack. That's just so they can ask the questions they want to ask and we can speak about things that bit more privately. So if you do want to be part of the community, do sign up down below and do consider subscribing to the YouTube channel if you're new.